My name is Fred Waller, and first of all, I'm really excited to be here. I love when I have opportunities to kind of like have great conversations with some exciting people, and I count the people that are viewing this as some exciting, interesting people, strictly because you guys want to hang out with blood for a living. So that's pretty neat. So what my goal is today is to just kind of touch on some things, but probably the most exciting component is when we have an opportunity for Q&A through the chat. And I'm hoping that at some point when we move away from the official presentation, we can maybe have a moderator that can help with questioning. I'm going to spitfire this thing quickly so that we can just get to the Q&A. So with that being said, let me share my screen and kind of go into little introductions and stuff. Okay. So, okay. So I'm going to assume that everybody can see my screen. My name is Fred Waller. I own Waller Tax and Financial Services. It's a full-service accounting financial planning firm. I have over 20 years of experience. I'm what's called an enrolled agent in CFP. That just means I'm good at taxes and helping people manage money. I have about 900 clients, about 200 million and 20 million. Maybe I'm projecting, but about 20 million in assets under management. But probably the thing that most matters for this presentation is I'm what's called a certified student loan advisor. So I have some unique insights when it comes to the student loan process at the undergrad level as well as at grad level. Okay. The goal today is to talk about financing medical school from application to graduation. Okay. So my really quick agenda is I want to touch on some application assistance options. I want to talk about some student loan management options. And I want to talk about student loan management options. And then I'm going to look forward to the Q&A. Okay. So the application assistance, AAMC fee assistance program. So let's look at a few slides. So now I'm going to jump over to a PDF. Okay, perfect. This is what's called the 2020 AAMC, which of course stands for the Association of American Medical Colleges. And they have what's called a fee assistance program. Now, I am not going to profess to be an expert in this. I'm really just want to expose you guys to it so that hopefully if nobody knew about it, then it was worth coming to the presentation today just to find that out. If you were aware of it, but maybe didn't do a deeper dive, then while I may not do a deeper dive, I may kind of touch the surface of the program. But basically, the AAMC Fee Assistance Program provides financial assistance to individuals who with aid would find it very difficult, if not impossible, to take the medical college admissions test, apply to medical schools that use the American Medical College Application Service, and fulfill other application obligations. And so here are some of the benefits, the eligibility, and the steps to applying. Now, we're not going to go real deep. I got a few more slides, and I'll jump back to my presentation. The fee assistance program benefits, it gives you reduced registration fee for MCAT exams, free MCAT official prep online only bundle, including the practice exams and flashcards, free subscription to the MSAR online database for up to 2 years. It waives the AMCAS application fee for one submission with up to 20 medical school designations. And you can learn more about the fee assistance program at aamc.org, FAP, which is the fee assistance program. Potential savings, if approved for fee assistance and utilize all the benefits, about $2,000. And what's interesting is that 8,969 people were approved for the 2019 round of fee assistance through the AAMC. Here's the program benefit calendar. How long can an applicant use these benefits? So if your application from January 1st through December 31st is approved, then your benefits expire December 31st, 2020. From January 1st to December 31st, 2020, then your benefits expire December 31st, 2021. January 1st to December 31st, 2021. Your benefits expire December 31st, 2020. Benefits are not retroactive. So when I was doing my research, it kind of spoke to if you already maybe took your exam and then you got this benefit, would they pay you back for what you already did? And the answer to that question is no. So I think you get the most out of this benefit if you're successful in the application process, is if you do it before you start getting some of the fees for the MCATs and different things like that. Program eligibility: U.S. citizen, U.S. national, lawful permanent resident of the U.S., granted refugee or asylee status by the U.S. government, deferred action or your DACA recipient, or you're awaiting refugee or asylee status approval by the U.S. government and have a U.S. employment authorization document. Okay, a couple more slides. Tied to U.S. Department of Health and Human Services poverty level guidelines, and it requires parental financial information and supporting tax documentation. And here's the process. It opens in January and closes in December. Some personal information will transfer from an applicant's AAMC profile. It's automatic and manual reviews. Upload any requirement documents to the application, and the AAMC will grant a final decision within 5 business days, which is really impressive. So if at the end of this formal presentation during the Q&A sessions, if you have questions about that, don't hesitate to ask. Now I'm going to jump back to my PowerPoint presentation, and let's move away from the Application Assistance Program, AAMC fee assistance, and let's just talk about student loans. Okay, thank you, student loans, for helping me get through college. I don't think I can ever repay you. Well, I think there are going to be ways that you can repay, and I'll be the first to say this. It's important to understand, unless you are independently wealthy, you are going to have to take out student loans. Okay. Back in the most recent data shows in 2019, 73% of 2019 graduating students had student loan debt. The average medical school debt in 2019 was around $201,000. Now, again, it's average because you may go to a public institution, you may go to a private institution. And that monthly payment would be around $2236 based on a 10-year repayment plan with about 6% interest. That's the reality, but then there are ways of managing that. Okay, so what are some student loan management strategies? You're telling me that if I get into a good repayment plan, my loans will be forgiven after enough payments? Is that true? Actually, it is. Okay, one of the things that's very attractive when you find yourself having to manage student loans is to understand whether or not you can put yourself in position to get what's called the public service loan forgiveness. And again, I don't want to go into deep dives with all of this. I want to reserve that for the Q&A. So for the most part, a public service loan forgiveness, you must work for a government or a nonprofit employer, and then you must make 120 payments while working for a qualifying employer. There's some nuances to that and some different components to that and some different strategies for that. But again, the helicopter view is you really want to see what you can do to take advantage of public service loan forgiveness. You will also have some opportunities to do what's called income-driven loan forgiveness, which means loans are forgiven after around 20 to 25 years. And there's different income-based repayment plans called pay-as-you-earn, revised pay-as-you-earn, income-based repayment, income contingent repayment. So all of those things affect the income-driven loan forgiveness. Now, of course, as you can see, that loan forgiveness is a whole lot longer than the public service loan forgiveness, which is actually 10 years. Now I'm going to start talking about some things that doctors, future doctors, all sorts of different medical professionals have access to. And again, I'm introducing these things. You guys are going to have to do a little bit of a deeper dive research. But for example, there's what's called the National Institute of Health Loan Repayment Plan. And if you go into biomedical or biobehavioral research careers, they will repay up to $50,000 annually up to 2 years, but you have to make a commitment to engage in a National Institute of Health mission relevant research. And so that could be something at least you want to be aware of, and maybe at the most you look into it and see if it can be something for you. National Health Service Corps Loan Repayment Plan. A clinician, its eligibility is for a clinician participating in Medicaid, Medicare, and or the state's CHIP program. Must agree to serve in an underserved area for at least 2 years, described as health profession shortage areas, and they would describe what they are, where they are. It's based on a score, and the bonus is the forgiveness would not be taxable. So if you're involved in this and there's some level of forgiveness of the student loans, what they're saying is those student loans will not be taxable. National Health Service Corps Students to Service Loan Repayment Plan. It's a student in your last year of medical or dental school. You must provide at least 3 years of service at a National Health Services Corporation approved site, and it repays a total of up to $120,000 worth of your student loans. And you must come from a disadvantaged background as defined by the National Health Service Corps organization. Few more slides, so if you can be thinking about questions you may have, let's look forward to doing that. Okay. National Health Service Corps substance use disorder. The National Health Service Corps Substance Use Disorder Workforce Loan Repayment Plan. You must work for 3 years in a full-time position dealing with substance abuse treatment, and they will do up to $75,000 to repay your student loans. And I just want to pull over right there and say, the reality is most people come out of medical school on average with about $200,000, $250,000 worth of debt, maybe even north of that. But I want to say, if I can at least say to you, please don't let that discourage you. But you have to be sensitive enough and practical enough to say, okay, maybe the first 7 or 8 years of my medical profession may not be exactly where I want to be or exactly what I want to be doing, because I may have to make some decisions in the beginning stages of my career as in the medical profession, leaning towards things that will help pay off these student loans. So I want you to be thinking about that. Be aware of these opportunities. And if some of these opportunities are like and no disrespect to Iowa, but we always use that. If it's somewhere like in Iowa or like Idaho or something like that, and you may say, I would have never imagined living in that area. Well, at some point, if you ask yourself, if that can create an opportunity for me to have up to $75,000 of my student loans repaid, then maybe Iowa or Idaho or a place like that is not as bad for 2 or 3 years. And you may have some incredible experiences there. So I just want to pull over there and just kind of add that to your thought process. There's some military student loan forgiveness, Army, Navy, and Air Force. If there's anybody that even has an inkling of doing something related to the military, then you might want to see how, if you enroll or enlist in any of those armed forces, whether or not they can help facilitate either paying your student loans off or helping you with that. And I'm just going to quickly go through, there's some state-specific loan repayment plans and or forgiveness. California, Colorado, DC Health Professionals, Delaware State, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey. There's a ton of different options there. So if you land in a certain state, before you accept a job offer, and you may have some offers in 2 or 3 different states, you might want to look and see if that state has a special thing that says, hey, come work in our state, come work in a disadvantaged area in our state. And one of the ways we recruit you to do that is to give you some options to pay off your student loans. Okay. Okay. So we have reached the end of the formal portion of the presentation. So I just wanted to pause there, and I'm ready now. If anybody has any, let me kill this. If anybody has any questions for me. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I believe, of course, if you have, I'm monitoring the chat feature, unless I should be looking somewhere else. So if anybody has any questions for me, I love to answer questions for you. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I was in the session, so it looks like please click sessions and join. If you have been inspired. For any students applying to or thinking about medical, please click. Okay, these are just some event questions from the organizers. So I'll go back into the session. Mario, it looks like, first of all, thank you, Mario, for asking the question. What would a typical financial aid package look like for a medical student? That's a great question. What my research has shown me is that medical students need to prepare to not expect a huge financial aid package. Much like most grad schools, at that point, most medical schools do not roll out in and of themselves scholarships. Now, there's outliers to situations, but I would probably, Mario, ask you to just prepare yourself that you're probably not going to get a financial aid package for medical school. That's where you have to look at student loans and different things like that. There may be some scholarships that the medical school can kind of put you in touch with, but I would not expect to see a huge, if any, financial aid package for medical school. Thanks you so much for the question, Mario. And hope I answered that, or if you have a follow-up question, please ask it. You're welcome, Mario. Appreciate it. What other questions do you guys have? Guess I'll give it a few more minutes. Thank you, Jessica. What would be the timeline for applying to loans in regards to the application cycle? That's a great question. You probably want to get in the cycle. Best time is as soon as possible. As far as a timeline, I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure in terms of, does the medical school have rolling admission? Do they have a application deadline and then an admission later? So I'm not 100% sure about the timeline, other than to just generally say, once you are in the process of applying to medical school, then you want to begin the process of communicating with potential lenders. And thank you, Mary, I just saw another question, but you want to get in that conversation with lenders, because you want to understand as soon as possible, because you want to find out if your credit is good enough to do it. Will you need a cosigner? You want to get in that cycle as soon as possible so that you don't have any unnecessary surprises that might hinder your ability to get a student loan. So the short answer to that is once you know and you're starting the application process, concurrently you want to be doing student loans. So again, Jessica, if that answer, do you have any advice? If you okay, so Jessica, let me do Mario's question and then I'll jump to Jessica. Thank you guys so much. I love questions. Here we go. Aside from private loans, what other types of loans are available for financing medical school? Typically, you're going to have either some potential government loans, like what we call direct plus loans, direct grad school loans. So there are some government loans available, and there mostly you're going to have private loans, but for the most part, you're going to have private loans, and you do have some opportunities for some government loans. But what tends to happen is those government loans have maximums that are not high enough, so you tend to have to get a private loan as well. Mary, I'll circle back if that doesn't totally answer the question. Jessica, do you have any advice if you also have loans from your undergraduate education? Probably the reality is what you want to do is you want to kind of get on some type of appropriate repayment plan. Like, for example, the best way I can describe that, let's say, for example, the last 4 years of your undergrad, you accumulated, keep the number simple, $50,000 worth of debt. And then you're about to apply to grad school and you get into medical school. You're going to have an option of either going into what's called forbearance or some type of income-based payment, or they might even just defer it because you're in school. But if you have the opportunity, I would enroll in what's called an income-based repayment. And because you don't have any income because you're in school, if it's possible, you might be able to get those 2 to 3 years of med school credited towards your income-based forgiveness plan. So again, without getting into the weeds of that, do you have any advice if you also have loans from your undergraduate education? Try to take out the least amount as possible going forward. And whatever you have done, try to get on some income-based repayment plan where hopefully your income-based repayment is zero because you have no income, and then let those months qualify you to get you closer to your income-driven forgiveness that we talked about in one of the slides. Okay, Jessica Smith, you're welcome. Mark, when applying to medical school, do they look at our parents' income or our personal income in terms of determining the financial aid they can provide us? That is a good question. I'll be candid with you. I do not know, because I was doing my research and something came up is historically you want to be deemed independent at the undergraduate level so that you can make yourself available to financial aid. At the grad school, medical school level, I'm not 100% sure whether or not they look at your parents' income, because again, I think financial aid at grad schools they just don't do a lot of it. It's a professional degree. I think the philosophy is I heard somebody say acceptance to that particular medical school is your financial aid. I heard that said of, like, for example, my daughter goes to Penn State main campus. She didn't get any money. And part of it is because, hey, it's such a challenge to get in. The fact that you got in is your financial aid. And we don't let you in and then give you $20,000. Unfortunately, that's what you may run into at medical school. So I think, again, Mark, as Mario had talked about earlier, I think you want to condition yourself that unfortunately there's not going to be a lot of financial aid available. Scholarships, yes, but I won't say a lot, but you have to brace yourself that there won't be a lot of financial aid. Thank you. You're welcome, Mark. Few more minutes. I have to be somewhere at 5 o'clock, but I still have some time. Please pick my brain. Talk to me. You have questions about the forgiveness process? Do you have questions about that AAMC? Let me ask a question if you guys don't mind. Those of you who are still here. Were you guys aware of the AAMC fee assistance program? If you don't mind just kind of throwing in the chat. Thank you. Mario says yes. Okay. 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 Jessica said yes. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. All right. So I'm glad. I apologize for insulting your intelligence. I'm not sure what year everybody is. And so I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that, because that's a pretty good thing. Has anybody ever heard of any fellow medical students, maybe a couple medical students, maybe a year or two ahead of them? Has anybody had experience or know of anybody that received that fee assistance from the AAMC? Question is, for those of you who are aware of the AAMC fee assistance program, does anybody know of anybody who received that fee assistance? Okay, thank you, Jessica. Jessica doesn't. I am currently applying. Beautiful, Ken. Thanks. Yes, however, they have strict income cutoffs. Okay, Mario. Yeah, remember when we were talking about that they do look at parental income. So, because it's not a federally funded situation. Caroline said, not to my knowledge. Okay, awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys. This chat feature, now I get a chance to interact back and forth with you guys. Come on, I love this stuff. So what other thoughts do you guys have? I want to help as best I can. I had a video I wanted to show, like a motivational video. It didn't play through, so I won't bother with it. But I won't close this out. I'll just quickly say while I'm thinking about it, like I started it off, please push through. It's a worthwhile profession. I have some clients who are doctors, and Jessica, I just saw your question. I'll get to that in a second. I have some clients who are doctors. I know some doctors, and if you, not if, but when you're successfully completed your program, life can be pretty cool. You do have some huge student loans you have to manage, but I think if you're strategic and you get some advice on the front end from like somebody like me who's a certified student loan advisor, then we can help you strategize to take as much of the sting away. Jessica, thank you for your patience. Have you heard anything about a loan repayment if you serve in a rural area? Oh, definitely. I won't say there are tons, but I would be 100% guaranteed. I can be 100% certain that there are rural areas that desire to have doctors come, and they worry because they got to compete with the bigger cities like New York and Los Angeles and different places like that. So short answer, I would be surprised if there were not some type of loan repayment things available if you're in a rural area. And part of my slides talked about that. Just about every state has some type of incentive to have a doctor come, but part of those incentives are associated with whether or not you will go into an underserved area. And rural areas, inner city areas, things like that is probably where they're going to try to incentivize you working there through maybe give them 2 or 3 years and they may forgive 40, 50,000. But I tell you what, that's a big deal. So hope that answered your question, Jessica. Thank you. Oh, no problem. No, oh, I'm sorry. Jessica said, I apologize if I missed that earlier. No problem. No problem. Final thoughts, you guys. I'm going to have to do a hard close at 4:45 because I have to be somewhere at 5. So hard thoughts. Any other thoughts for me? I think this is recorded. I'll give you my, I don't know if that's good. I see you're from Lancaster. Same here. Have you heard about the loan repayment forgiveness for this area? Caroline, I can't say that I have. Mario, thank you for you're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time coming on and trying to learn. Caroline, I see you're from Lancaster. Have you heard about loan repayment forgiveness for this area? That's a good question. I have not. And thank you for that question. I'm going to definitely look into that. But yeah, I have not heard of anything that's unique for the Lancaster County area. But what I'm going to do, because I have two screens, let me just, with the few minutes that I have, let me just quickly Google loan repayment options in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. One of the first things I saw is what's called PA Forward. Lancaster dollars, private student loans. Well, unfortunately with Google, I have to sift through this because it's a whole bunch of ads. Once you start talking about student loans, you got to sift through ads. So I'd have to do a deeper dive, Caroline. I own Waller Tax and Financial Services. I'm on the internet under wallertax.com. I have a Facebook page, Waller Tax and Financial Services. And my telephone number is 717-394-6097. If anybody thinks of a question and you want to just call me, I'm totally free, totally available. Would love to help. Okay, thank you. No worries. We'd love to stay in contact if possible. Caroline, same here. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.